This video is for section 3.1. Chapter 3 is all about solving systems of linear equations, and in this section we're going to look at three different methods for solving systems of linear equations: graphing, substitution, and addition. We're going to start with graphing and look at example 2 in the textbook. It says solve by graphing, and then it has two linear equations with a bracket around them on the left side. Now, when we say solve a system of linear equations, what we're looking for is we're looking for where the lines cross. So that's the first thing that we want to be aware of. So to solve a system by graphing, all we need to do is graph both lines on the same axis, and then we can look for the point where the lines cross. So my first equation here is y equals negative x minus 1. This one is in slope-intercept form. So we want to identify the slope and the y-intercept. B, my y-intercept, is negative 1. So I'm going to plot a point on the y-axis on negative 1. M is a little bit trickier in this one because I don't see a number in front of x, only a negative sign. That means that m is negative 1. Write that as a fraction, put it over 1. This means that I'm counting down 1 and to the right 1. So I have a negative slope, that means I'm going down. My line should be facing downward. And so there's another point. Sometimes it's helpful when you're doing these by hand to plot multiple points, just because it's a little bit easier to see where the lines are going to cross. You don't really have to worry about this on the homework because my math app is going to draw a nice straight line in for you. But it can help you draw the line straight if you draw multiple points here. So this is my first line. Hopefully that's far enough. Now I'm going to graph the second line. My second equation is 4x minus 3y equals 24. This is in standard form because x and y are on the same side of the equation. So I'm going to use the cover-up method. So when we cover up the y, the equation that I get is 4x equals 24. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And that gives me x equals 6. So remember, what I do with that is I plot 6 on the x-axis here, which is right there. Then I need to do the same thing but cover up the x. And when I cover up the x, the equation that I get is negative 3y equals 24. Then I need to divide both sides by negative 3, and that gives me y equals negative 8. So my second point for the red line is going to be on the y-axis at negative 8. So I'm going to plot that, which is all the way down here. Now I'm going to try and draw this red line in as straight as I can. That's not too bad. And then what I'm looking for is the point where the two lines cross. So looking at these two lines, now I need to do some counting here. The x-coordinate of this point, this is the point right here where they cross, the x-coordinate looks like it's 3, and the y-coordinate looks like negative 4. So the coordinates of this point are going to be 3, negative 4. So that's my answer. Now, looking at this on the homework, the problems are going to look like this. It's going to say click to enlarge graph like we did before, and so that's going to be your first step. And then remember, we're using the line tool to draw the lines. So I'm going to start by graphing the first line, x minus y equals -1. That's going to have on the x-axis -1, on the y-axis +1. Then, once I have the first line graphed, I need to click on the line tool again to draw the second line. That's going to be at x equals -3 and y equals -3. Once I have the graph drawn, I click on Save, and then I need to check my answer. Now these problems have two parts, so the first part is getting the graph correct. Once you have the graph correct, then the problem will move on to the second part where you enter what the actual solution is. Now you notice here there's three choices, A, B, and C. A says there is exactly one solution. The solution set is. B and C are for infinitely many solutions, and the solution set, this is the symbol for the empty set. We're not going to do any problems where B or C is the answer, so you don't have to worry about those. You're always going to be clicking on A, and then in the box, you're going to type the coordinates of the point where the two lines cross. And if you can't see on the little graph very well, you can click on this magnifying glass to zoom in. So looking at this, it looks like the points where the two lines cross is going to be -2, -1. When I type that in, I need to make sure that I'm typing that in parentheses because it wants it as a coordinate pair. Even though there's the bracket there, you still need to put parentheses around the point. If you don't, MyMathLab is going to mark it wrong. Then I can click on Check Answer, and it's going to tell you if it's right or wrong. So, what you should do next is checkpoint problem number 2 in your notes. Check your answer with the notes that are posted on Blackboard, and then you can move on to the homework.